So it's become apparent to everyone that World War III may be on the cards, and I just thought I'd show a few basic things you should probably get in just in case it does happen. And I'm saying this because a lot of the messages lead me to think that a lot of people out there don't ever think about these things and are totally unprepared for any kind of emergency scenario that may come in the future. Now, the stats in the UK are that most people have less than a week's worth of food in the house, and the supermarket shelves themselves contain actually about 3 days worth of food. So yeah, number one, get yourself a couple of weeks worth of food in dry stuff or tin stuff if you can, because you never know, the supermarkets may have logistical issues. If stuff kicks off in the ocean, they won't be able to transport stuff around the globe the way they do currently, will they? Which means those supermarket shelves potentially can run out of certain items, if not a fair few items. Now, short of dry goods like pasta and whatnot, tins are your next best bet, but the ultimate best bet is a shitload of freeze-dried products. All of my tins have run out of date, so I've just upgraded myself to this company's stuff, and they basically do pre-packaged meals. That's enough for 4 people. Freeze-dried, that is going to last forever. It says 25-year shelf life, but freeze-dried stuff will literally last for 1,000 years if it's kept in the right condition. I've got a fair amount of these giant 5-litre tins that are going beyond their best now. Looking at replacing those with a freeze-dried version of tomato sauce as well, effectively. Everything freeze-dried, you pretty much just add water to it and it goes back to what it was before it was freeze-dried. But I've got this big bulk bag of rice and I'm probably going to get a couple more of them. As a rule of thumb for sort of super emergencies, a cup of rice a day plus some other bits and pieces will keep you more than fed. Obviously, like I mentioned before, the freeze-dried stuff, that's where freeze-dried products and freeze-dried meat especially come into play. A little couple of chunks of meat a day and a bowl of rice, that'll keep you alive for a hell of a long time in emergency scenarios. Now, pretty surefire, if the food network goes down and you need your emergency food rations, you're going to be running low on power too, which ultimately means you're going to be running low on water, I imagine also, as water around this country for most people gets pumped. Now, people forget about this precious resource of water even more than they do about food. As I mentioned, if the power does go off for some reason, water's going off too very, very shortly. So if you don't have water on hand, in about 3 or 4 days, you're going to be becoming pretty scuppered unless you've got a water source near you with relatively clean water or the ability to make it clean. Now, I've dug my own well to supply water to the farm anyway, so any scenario, I've got a water supply there. Now, this time of year doesn't produce much water, just about enough for us. That's why I'm building this big tank here as a rainwater/river catcher system that we can filter to give us even more water so we don't have any kind of drought emergencies ever. But if you are just in a house, flat, etc., you don't have your own well, you're probably going to want to keep at least 2 litres of water a day per person on hand in your house. Now, that may seem like a hell of a lot of water, but believe it or not, that's literally probably 2 stacks high worth of big 2-litre bottles and a couple across, and that takes up no room in any kind of storage space you might have, like a garage or a cupboard or something, and well worth having, because water is the first thing most people will run out of in any sort of emergency scenario. These are my filters I use until my new one arrives, and they're obviously pretty big, and the new filter is going to be pretty big too, but you can get things like the live straw, for example. Most people have seen that, and that'll enable you to drink water from any water source. Highly recommend getting yourself something like that, especially if you live in a town, because you will be able to find open water sources, but they won't be safe to drink from otherwise. And beyond that, get yourself an actual water filter kit system. They come in like 10, 20 little sack thing that you can fill with water, and then over time, it's going to produce you a decent amount of water throughout the day, which will keep you in water in any emergency scenario. I will just stress again that water will be the most crucial thing that people will need in any emergency. It will run out fast, and you will need to drink it very soon. As you know, a day without water, you will be incredibly thirsty. 3 days, you're probably talking getting seizures, and then maybe dying. So you need water. Make sure you've got somewhere to get it. Now, if you've seen some of my videos before, you probably know that I've got a fully off-grid solar-powered system, and I've got enough power here to last a good amount of days with zero sun at all, which means obviously I can use electricity basically as normal in any kind of emergency scenario. But you are going to need a light source. Now, obviously, you can get these big, powerful ones for about 20, 30 quid that are lithium charged, but if the grid goes down, you won't be able to charge this back up. So you will need a good old-fashioned mag light type thing that has manual lead acid batteries you can put in the bottom, which then means you'll be able to store up extra power should you need it in the form of batteries. Now, I do realise this, to some people it's shocking that people don't have a torch in the house, but the modern world, I imagine most of you don't, because you've got a torch on your phone. Now, if your phone runs out of battery, what are you going to do for light? Whereas a mag light type torch, or any torch where you can put batteries in, you can have light for the foreseeable future as long as you've got enough batteries stored. Big heavy torch leads me on to my next one. Most people in this country don't have weapons in their house apart from maybe a kitchen knife, maybe a cricket bat, maybe a baseball bat, something like that. In an emergency scenario, things are likely to run awry, aren't they, if the police and the government, etc., don't rein in control pretty fast. So you are going to need basic weaponry in your house. And a big torch heavy like this is perfect utility. It's torch and it's something to, you know, now, the step beyond a basic club weapon or a knife is obviously something like this bow. This is really, really cheap and available on Amazon. So are these arrows. And with a slight upgrade to the arrowhead on it, a more than capable weapon to defend yourself in any scenario. And I'm already sure the majority of people would have had a go with a bow and arrow before and understand literally how simple a weapon this is. And more than capable, as I say. And that's also why I recommend this as a sort of defensive apocalypse weapon, because to be an offensive weapon, you need to be fairly proficient with this. But defensive, 10, 20 yards away, anyone can use this. So a basic month or so's worth of food supply, torch power you are going to need, and some sort of other weaponry. And with these basic things, you're going to just be able to hunker down wherever you live, etc., and probably survive whatever happens. You see in a lot of these films that a lot of people go out within the first couple of weeks, and that is literally due to ill preparedness. But yeah, a few basic things, and you've got yourself a month's worth of emergency stuff that you don't need to then panic on trying to rush to the shops, do all that stuff that you see around the world when it actually does happen. People panic buy, etc. You don't need to do any of that. You can just hunker down, settle in, ride out the wave, so to speak. But yeah, if you really want to go nuts with your preparedness, get yourself a small piece of land like I have, get yourself loads of animals, get yourself all the wood you possibly need growing, get yourself log burners, dig your own well like I have, get solar power, get a diesel generator, get gas bottles for cooking, as well as when you run out of wood, food supply, weaponry, and preferably a lot of people, and you should be good to go in any kind of emergency. I sort of realised a couple of years ago now that I was building the perfect prepper's paradise here, with having all my own animals, chickens, all the veg I could possibly grow, etc., and then bringing other people here and growing the family and stuff has effectively meant we've got a small army. So we have now basically the ability to survive any kind of real world scenario, short of like the asteroid impact or plague that kills everyone. Any sort of thing that's manageable apocalypse, so to speak, we're pretty good for here now. And if people ultimately want to be prepared for those sorts of things, having yourself the rural environment, the small holding, the solar power, all of the things that come with rural living do inherently make you far more prepared for any kind of global events that generally affect cities and towns more than the countryside, because like I say, you've got half the things you need in abundance all around you without having to worry about going anywhere to try and get it. Now, to ultimately be prepared here, I would need to have the market garden going, because then that is guaranteed food all year round when we've got all the veg in play. As it's not properly in play at the minute and it's just bits and pieces for ourselves, its emergency scenario would mean we need to plant a lot of stuff real fast, but that is all doable if you've got the space. So again, you get yourself the countryside lifestyle with a big garden, at least you can be readily prepared for most things that can come. If you talk about World War II, which is the closest I guess we've come to running out of food in this country in a hell of a long time, people were prepared for that by pretty much turning most gardens into the country into allotments. There's all sorts of World War II documents that are available for people to see, and an allotment could provide a family of 4 enough food to survive all year round with a proper crop rotation. So we could grow enough food for yourselves in the city if you needed to, but when you've got all the space to play with, it's a hell of a lot easier. And it does also mean you're more likely to have neighbours that are cooperative around you, so you'll be able to basically work together much easier to survive with neighbours that can provide resources and you can trade and all that sort of stuff. The cities are basically going to get chaos, aren't they, if any emergency scenario was to happen on a big scale, when government loses control, etc., something like that. Or, like I say, it becomes just basically anarchy ensues. We've all seen films. We all know the potential outcomes of stuff. If something like that did happen, the cities are going to be a very dangerous place. There's not going to be much cooperation, and there's going to be a lot of bullying and a lot of violence, I'd say. Whereas the countryside, much more harmonious anyway, and there's going to be a lot more reason to trade amongst people, etc. So much more survivable anywhere in the world, really, as being in the countryside. The cities are all around dangerous place anyway, let alone if World War III was to happen. But that's enough of me waffling now anyway. I hope this has given anyone that isn't prepared at all for any kind of emergency a bit more of what you should get and how you should be prepared, just a touch, and then you can ride it out and survive most occasions if anything does happen. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, drop a comment below, like and subscribe if you haven't already, because all of that stuff really does help grow the channel and push this video out to other people who might want to see it. So thanks in advance. Bye bye for now.